Thank you, John. I think we're nearing the 7th inning stretch here, so we'll give you just a moment of exercise. How many people would consider themselves a researcher or a machine learning researcher or professional? If you could stand up, put your hand up. You want to stretch? I don't mind. I want to be able to see how many people there are. And how many people have had formal education in machine learning? Okay, good. Thank you. This is work done in collaboration with two wonderful students at Acadia University, as well with supporting co-supervisor, Dr. Sazia Mahfouz, and certainly in partnership with our industry partner, MotionBed, and Dr. Ken Leslie. He's actually sitting right fourth row there, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about these other people as we move along through things. So, hopefully most of you are going to live to you're about 90 years of age, right? I hope so. Do you realize that of that 90 years, 30 of those years are going to be spent sleeping? That's quite profound. Particularly, we've focused our efforts, our technology on the 2/3 while we're awake. But we're finally at a point in time now with using digital technology and artificial intelligence, we can begin to impact our lives during the sleeping time, or like 1/3 of that life. And this has been a lifelong interest to Dr. Leslie, and he has now a brand through his company called Dream Director AI, where he's beginning to perfect those things. So that's really the major point in my talk, is that there's going to be some really interesting things happening in this area over the next several years. If we could detect the various stages of sleep, we could do some pretty wonderful things. First of all, we can improve our lives immensely. While we're awake, we'd be more productive, fewer accidents. We could do something that's called lucid dreaming. How many people have heard of lucid dreaming before? Yeah, it's becoming increasingly of interest to people. That's where you can both be aware of the fact that you're dreaming and do some partial control of what you're dreaming about. And if you can do that, you can affect your lives profoundly, particularly if you suffer from various sleep disorders such as PTSD, a traumatic event causes nightmares. If you're acting out during your dreams, which is another type of sleep disorder where your body does not slip into what's called atonia. You don't move. You strike out and hit your partner in bed. Major reason for couples sleeping in different beds, by the way. Delayed sleep phase syndromes, DSPS, is just sleepy teenagers that are going through a delicate portion of their life, or suffer from this, and various insomnias, sleepwalking, talking. Apparently, some people even sleep drive. Imagine that. It happens. Anyway, these are all problems that could be tackled if you better understand what's happening to us during sleep and what stages that we're in. The technical problem here is being able to detect the stage of sleep you're in real time. Now, almost everyone here, I suppose, has a watch like this, an Apple Watch, a Fitbit or something, and you've all seen probably at the end of your sleep night, the next morning, you've looked at perhaps your sleep stages. Am I correct? Has everybody done something like that? Very good. That's post-processing, all that data that the watch picked up and took to your phone. What we need to be able to do this is in real time so that we can detect when you're in various stages of sleep, and then we can affect the sleep at that point. So we want techniques that can do it in real time, inexpensive, can be used at home, not invasive to your sleep. And technologies like wearables like your watch are the perfect way to go here. So let's talk just a little bit about the stages of sleep. 4 stages, there's actually 5, but the core, I've kind of put 2 of them together here. That is when you're sleeping, you're actually awake a fair amount of the time. In my age, you're up 2 or 3 times a night for various other things. The next stage of sleep typically is light sleep. That's when you're shifting into sleep. Deep sleep is where which is only about 25% of your sleeping time, is where you really refresh your brain. Literally, there is a flush of your brain and your body and muscles actually truly relax. It's really important to have a piece of sleep. But REM sleep is the really intriguing one on so many levels, actually. It's not only for health and benefit, but it has a lot to do with the next stages I think we're going to find in machine learning. And that is how we take our most recent memories, the things that we've learned and worked on in the last several days to integrate, or generally it's called in psychology and neuroscience, consolidate that information into that mosaic knowledge that we've acquired over a lifetime. We don't know how to do that, but it's going to be an important aspect of the next phases of machine learning and artificial intelligence. So this has a lot to do with cognitive development and function, your mental health, emotional regularity, and creativity. It's during this dream and simulation state where we're replaying these things. This is when Einstein came up with the idea of relativity. This is when Mendel came up with the thoughts of the periodic table. Mary Shelley, Frankenstein, and even the Beatles, Paul McCartney. The melody and the words for Yesterday came from this period. So the gold standard in terms of understanding what sleep stage that you're in has to do with picking up on physiological characteristics of your body while you're sleeping. And the gold standard is polysomnography, which is typically done in like a sleep clinic. So I guess maybe I shouldn't ask this, but I'm curious as to how many people have gone to a sleep clinic and actually had that sort of thing assessed. If you have, then you know a bit about this. You're tracking a lot of data in this kind of a setting, and it requires professionals typically to help you to do it. You've got brainwave electrical activity given off through your skull, through the electroencephalogram, eye movement. There are techniques for tracking the movement of your eyes. If you're familiar with REM sleep, as we're looking at here in detail, that's important. Heart rate and rhythm, of course, of your heart, electrocardiogram, and muscle movement can also be tracked by having electrodes on your face in particular. So you see a person here with one particular kit you can actually get at home that does a pretty good job of what can be done in the clinic, but it's still quite intrusive to your body. It's expensive, and to really do a great job on it, a human sleep specialist needs to analyze the data that comes through. Now, as we talked about before, you're aware of the fact that you can use a wearable, such as your watch, and you can get simple information like heart rate and motion data, and perhaps over time we're going to see a lot more data coming from these wearables, including blood oxygen levels, skin temperature, things like this. And that data can take us so far, as we're seeing here, up to like 75% accuracy. That is once the data is collected over the night and post-processed in the morning. It's not real time. We've got to get to the point where it's real time. That's the objective of this work. So when you look at two pieces of information you can collect out of your watch, and that's your movement data, the acceleration of the motion of the watch, and your heart rate, which can be collected. Let's look at how that compares to the various stages of sleep. And the sleep hypnogram is the very top of the page here. And we can see here when you're awake, of course, there's a lot of movement, body movement, heart rate tends to be high and varies. When you're in poor or light sleep, your movement will drop down, your heart rate can still have a bit of intensity and variability. When you're deep sleep, you pretty much flatline in all of those. Your body really is in rest in that case. What's interesting, of course, is that REM period. And REM is, the characteristics here is that you see very little movement because your nervous system actually causes a state of atonia in most of your limbs to prevent yourself from moving. Although we've all seen a dog or a cat sleeping on the rug and they do that. You're doing that at night to some extent too, but it's atonia that prevents you from actually acting out your dreams. At the same time, your heart rate can be quite high and varies quite a bit, so it's characteristic. So the patterns are really noisy, ugly, and to capture this in real time and identify what sleep stage you're in is the trick. What we want to be able to do is to have a small interval, perhaps up to 30 minutes at most, across all this data we can collect from wearables, taking past that through a machine learning system that's been trained on that data, and then to be able to say, you're in the beginning of REM sleep or the end of REM sleep. That's the goal. So, in our first work in this, in 2022, we worked with a wonderful undergraduate honors student named Chiquette, who worked on developing software for the Apple Watch that collected time, rate, motion data, provided it to the iPhone. The iPhone then put it together with data that was also collected at the same time in this study using the Cerebro Sleep Kit, which does this much more detailed collection of brainwave information, muscle movement, provides much more detailed and accurate sense of the sleep stage you're actually in. Brought those two pieces of information together, which gave us 2-minute interval data on all those things, both the sleep stage you're in, as well as the various physiological characteristics. And then from that, to feed the machine learning system, we took up to 15 2-minute intervals and the current state, sleep stage the person is in, and developed models to be able to predict from those 15 2-minute intervals, 30 minutes in total, what sleep stage are you in at this point in time, and tested those models, and used the various architectures, recurrent neural networks, convolutional neural networks, lots of details there, of course, but what we found is that this worked, fairly well, pretty good. We were getting accuracies around 78% compared to the clinical data that was provided by the Cerebro system. You can see on the right over here, sometimes it did quite well. The red is the actual, blue is the predictions by the system in real time, and other times it didn't do so well. So we needed to do better, but it was a good start. And so the next step, based on this, was to develop systems that could be more accurate. One of the important things that came out of this initial study is that putting data together from a whole bunch of people, trying to build a general model for predicting REM sleep, just doesn't work very well. You need to have a personalized model within such a type of study. And the other thing that was clear is we couldn't continue to use this expensive Cerebro type home kit and their technology, which was online, to do this. We had to be able to use just wearables to get our ground truth sleep stage information. And it had to be able to scale from a commercial perspective. That was a primary concern to the company we were working with. So Ahmad Chowdhury, who is with us up there, master student, took up the charge and worked on these two problems, that increasing accuracy and working just with wearables such that they're scalable for a commercial product, and took the criteria as where we left off to be the goal in terms of bettering things. The first thing was to determine that we could accurately use information from the Apple environment to provide the stage of sleep information that we needed. So what I'm talking about here now is that the Apple Health Kit that runs on your Apple phone brings in this heart and motion data, and it's able to estimate that after your sleep is over, or the next day, it will generate the hypnogram of the stages of your sleep. Now that's no good in real time, but it gives us the sleep stage data from the night before. Plus, we can actually collect the various physiological factors on our own, and then marry the two of those up. We can build models to do the prediction. So the idea here would be that you would have your watch, you would collect data over 7 or 8 nights. You take that data, produce models relating your physiological characteristics to your sleep stages, and then you can embed that model within the iPhone, and the iPhone will be able to then predict for future nights what stage of sleep that you're in. And we got fairly accurate, we considered it sufficiently accurate to move forward in this attempt to build models to do this. So what Ahmad did, again working with the MotionVet and Dream Director AI group, was to bring in the time, motion, and heart rate information, both into the Apple Health Kit system that produced the sleep stages, and also collected that raw data, pre-processed it up, synchronized the timestamps, things like this, so we had records for developing models. Did them in a very similar way, but using more complex advanced, because machine learning moves along so fast. It's now 23, 24 There were lots of new models that we could do. Did a lot more work with feature engineering, adding rolling averages over intervals to try to smooth out some of the data. And we did a lot of balancing of the sleep stage data, because you saw that there's only 25% of the time you're in REM, 75% of the time you're not in REM. That was an issue. Those who worked in machine learning, you know what I'm talking about there. And ultimately the goal was to get accurate models, embed them within the iPhone of those users, and be able to affect their sleep habits. That was the intention over time. So again, lots of different deep neural networks being used here, convolutional, recurrent methods. I'm going to get into much more sophisticated hybrid types of solutions, and transformer and models that are using attention mechanism layers within them, and significantly improved the accuracy levels from 78 to 82, and most importantly, the true positive rate, the rate at which you can identify REM sleep, went from 57 to 76. 0.57 to 0.76. And you can see on the right-hand side here, again, red is the actual stage of sleep that you're in as estimated by the health kit, and the blue is the real-time prediction during sleep. The last thing we did, which is a very powerful technique, which I suggest any of you might want to try, is that we moved from predicting just a single, predicting the sleep stage you're currently in at the moment, to predicting not just that, but something that's related to it. And the easiest thing to think about what's related to that is what sleep stage were you in 2 minutes ago, 4 minutes ago, 6 minutes ago. Now you're predicting 4 different things, and that actually helps you, because the model, when it trains on this data, it actually has a contextual information about where it was just now. And it's not part of the input, it's part of the training output. So you don't need it at runtime in order to affect the model. And that boosted our results from 82 up to 85% accuracy. The true positive rate was 79, perhaps even more importantly, the true negative rate, which is the idea of not predicting it's REM sleep, but it's not really REM sleep, that value increased. So you can see now that all the models are doing relatively well, and it turns out that the convolutional models generally did the best across all of this. So that combination of feature engineering, again, many of you will know this, we work on projects, enhanced parameters and architectures, but the multiple task learning really nailed it down in terms of doing it much better, and allowed us to work with just simple wearable. At the moment, Dr. Sassy Mahfouz, who's also here, I believe anybody's interested in speaking with her, she's right beside Ahmed. They're working on collecting additional data in cooperation with MotionBed, working on transfer learning, which the idea here is to be able to more rapidly generate accurate models for an individual without all those 7-8 nights of sleep before you can build a good model. And there's a whole slew of open questions. Most importantly, once we have models that can recognize when you're in REM sleep, we actually be able to test with light flashes from the phone, sound that could come from the phone, and vibrations that come from your watch. Can it actually affect what you're dreaming and control some of those aspects? So there's a lot of interesting things there, which Dr. Ken can tell you a lot more about if you'd like to speak with him after this. And there's this contact information, as a matter of fact. I think this is a really interesting area, and Dr. Leslie, I'm pursuing it, particularly here in Atlantic Canada. And for the psychologists or sleep study specialists in the audience, by all means, have a chat. Thank you. Interestingly, a lot of the data required from students, their sleep habits are from like 1 in the morning till 10 in the morning sort of thing, whereas, Dr. Leslie, of course, is more like 9, 10 o'clock at night through to 7. And so there's a lot of variability like that. It is, no question about it, it's more personalized. Now, the transfer learning idea is, okay, general models, very similar to what Netflix, Spotify does. They can characterize you as being in one category of a general model, and then morph that model based on your actual viewing, listening data. So that's the idea here too. You can bring a lot of stuff into it beyond just the wearables. You could bring a lot of personal information potentially.